Basically, this work came to me from several different places. Part of it was dream. Most of it was just unconscious thoughts. But I guess down to the core was the location. And that's kind of where the idea of the work originated or birthed itself. My performances always entail a choir of some sort. And from a very long time ago, I made that promise to myself that any kind of performance I do will come in that shape or form. So you kind of see these three warriors rise up in their best frock, trying to outdo each other, using their voice as a weapon, but also questions that are not necessarily in words, but more just intuitive sounds. They rise up and they're kind of at it immediately, kind of battling. And not necessarily like a call response kind of thing. Just, it's weird because these warriors are polite, so they wait and listen to what you have to say, and they wait, and then when it's their turn, they deliver, and so on. So we get to this point in the performance where they're kind of getting quite aggressive, but they're realizing that it's not quite going anywhere. And even when their costumes balloon and sort of expand, and that's not really doing much either, they kind of reach this point where they make honey together, where all their questions and all their battling kind of turns into a big swirl, and it all melts, and like sweet juice comes out, and they kind of make a really nice remedy for, I don't know, some kind of heightened experience that they all share together. That's basically what the work's about. It's about being comfortable with the idea of just pausing in that moment and not questioning a question, and just being comfortable with the idea of a question just existing as a question, and for there not to be an answer or an outcome. And I guess that's why the performance kind of ends, well, it's kind of like a bit anticlimactic, because it's going up and up, and then it kind of just pauses, and it kind of just ends kind of like this, instead of pew, like that. Yeah. Most of my performances have been in churches or an inside space, like a gallery-related space. This is, I think, one of the first performances that I've done that is invading, a public space like that. Because, some people didn't know that the performance was on, and suddenly they look up and they see. That was kind of exciting for me to experience that, because I never really got it. I never really got public art, and I do understand it, but it just never really appealed to me. So it was a very different way of working this time, because my performances are usually not overly, but relatively rehearsed, and this one was actually quite intuitive, and most of it was made up on the spot. As in the performers were kind of feeding off each other and kind of introducing new material each time. There was a loose structure, but they kind of expanded from it. This is actually also the first time that I haven't been in the performance, and it was a little bit scary actually and intimidating.
I'm really interested in the idea of the choir, or whatever, this idea of the group and the group speaking as one, but also in conversation.
I think from a really young age, I have been secretly singing, like on my way to school, or particularly on my way to school and on my way back home. There would be this park with a really long tunnel, and I would pop my head in there, and I would have at least 15 minutes or something where I could just fuck around and just like whisper and, I don't know, just make some really crazy noises. And it's quite strange, you know, that was, it was weird that I was doing that from an early age. And it was a form of release, I guess. It was only until I was maybe about 20 something where I did my first performance where I used my voice. Because at the same time I was really, well, and I still am really obsessed with musicals, so it kind of made sense to, if I was to do a performance, it would come in the shape of a musical in a sense. And the good thing about musicals is that you can sing about anything. You can be tying your shoelace and then suddenly, you know, people come dancing behind you and doing backflips, and, you know, there's this 5-minute song about, you know, how to put one shoelace through the hole in the other, and you might tie it together and trip over or something, and, you know, whatever. So that is why I kind of like the idea of choirs, because it brings out all these other elements, apart from it being an extension of my voice, because, you know, usually if you trace back to many of my other performances, we are wearing pretty much identical clothes. You know, these people in the choir might have, you know, different personalities coming through, but that is only natural because, you know, everyone doesn't just have one personality. You have several different personalities inside of you. So it kind of made sense to have, you know, right and left, you know, all these people being you. So yeah, it never made sense for me to just do it on my own. Plus it gets a bit lonely, and I think it's, like, at the end of the day, a bit more interesting anyway. And apart from that, it's this idea of singing together. Something else happens when these voices combine. You know, that thing I was talking about, honey, before, you know, when those three voices combine, I can't quite explain it, but that, you know, something really, like, I've experienced it many times, but something strange happens. You're undercurrent and you're just somewhere else. That's what I'm particularly interested in when I'm doing this thing with, like, these groups of other people. I'm interested in exploring the unknown with them through our voices.